Okay, so let's start with the AMA. Um, a quick reminder, the whole AMA session is going to be recorded. Hello and welcome everyone to voice AMA session after a long time. Today, we have Filip Kalebo with us as the AMA guest who aims to contribute to Edgeware's runtime development and maintenance. Philip has hefty knowledge and experience in the substrate development and previously worked for Pisako, aka sister parachain of composable finance on Kusama. Welcome, Philip, to the Edgeverse.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. I have a couple of questions myself, but would you like to start the AMA by sharing your intro and background?
Certainly. So I grew up very interested in IT security and did IT security for a really long time, and then I ended up working with IT security and programming and a lot of C code because all the Linux kernels are written in C. So I did a lot of IT security, and then around 2014, someone started talking to me about Bitcoin, and I couldn't understand how it worked. So I set out on a mission to understand how it worked, and that ended up by me setting up a couple of Bitcoin nodes and hosting various blockchain nodes for a couple of years, and then that escalated to building payment gateways, and then I got more and more into Rust. And yeah, I've been working on various blockchain projects now in Rust, and mostly recently I've been really into Substrate, and that's why I'm here. Yeah.
Marvelous journey indeed. So, what do you think about major challenges for Edgeware as of now and the whole crypto space in general?
For the whole crypto space, there's a lot of challenges going on right now in the crypto space, like the price is falling and you're looking at sustainability, but I think Edgeware is in a really good spot because of their implementation of the node and because of their infrastructure, and I think all the parachains, or most of them, are gonna have a really bright future because I think the future will in order for like the future in order for software projects to be maintained long term, they need to have like a stable base, and I feel like Edgeware has a really stable base, and that's also thanks to Rust, which I'm really happy about.
And definitely worth mention would be the fair distribution by log group. So, um, do you have any thoughts on the fast-paced development nature of Substrate framework?
Yeah, I didn't quite get the question there.
So do you have any thoughts on fast-paced development nature of Substrate framework? So right now you can see Edgeware is lagging little behind in terms of Substrate version. We are currently on Substrate 2.0, while Substrate 3.0 is kind of mainstream across solutions, parachains, and relations, while Substrate 4.0 is also kind of release. So what do you think? Um, is it like a sustainable way of development achievable through following the Substrate frameworks fast paced nature? So that way Edgeware could Edgeware is currently a stability oriented ecosystem, no? So
Yeah.
do we really need to be a fast pace? Like, do we need to be early Substrate 4.0 adopter, or does it affect in any perspective, in your opinion?
I think like the problem we're trying to like a good problem that would be solved by updating and keeping up to date with the fast pace growing. Like you said, it's a very fast release cycle the Polkadot releases has.
Yep.
So it's very hard to keep up to date with all of them. Or it requires a lot of effort being put in. But being compatible with other chains and being able to talk with other chains, and they're running the latest things. So, and also, as the versions grow, it becomes more mature and mature. It's a problem, yeah, because of the fast pace. But I think still we should be able to keep up. I think there's a lot of benefits because there's a lot of really new cool technology that are being developed by a lot of new nice features that are coming to Substrate.
Totally agree. So, do you also think that this fast-paced nature is likely to become slower and slower over the time as the whole Polkadot ecosystem matures?
I think the release cycle is gonna become much. It's gonna take longer and longer, mostly because of the size of the project. So it's gonna take longer and longer for new features to be implemented, I think, and properly tested, and bigger framework. As long as Substrate is becoming a bigger framework, it will take longer and longer time. But right now they're pushing and pushing, so I think it will actually slow down after. I don't know exactly when, but after a while, I think it will slow down.
So for now, it definitely makes sense to catch up with the fast pace, to open up the interoperability with other chains and whole ecosystem. Great answer.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for that. Would you call yourself a solo chain maximalist or a multi-chain minimalist, or kind of both?
I kind of been in the crypto space for a while, and I never want to call myself a maximalist because I have like so many friends that are like Bitcoin maximalists and Monero maximalists, and I get into cryptocurrency because I didn't understand technology, and I love the technology, or sorry, running low on coffee here.
No problem.
So no, I don't want to be like, and I wouldn't call myself a maximalist, chain maximalist. And yeah, there's obviously some chains that are better than others, but it's such a big space, and there is a lot of things to take from a lot of different parts, such as Zeta Cash with all their privacy features and their knowledge proofs, and Monero with their rig signatures and anonymity. I like a lot of projects, yeah.
For those who don't know, Edgeware is a place for accommodating even the solo chain maximalist as well as the multi-chain minimalist, because there is a proposed structure called parachain, where the solo chain will remain a solo chain while there will be multiple parachains. The best example could be the Kabocha, and in future dot parachain, which could be parabridge. So the whole ecosystem together, the parabridge ecosystem, could be a best place for anyone to deploy, because they will get the most powerful shared security from the parachain, while the highest throughput of the solo chain together. So now that I'm very much satisfied with all your answers, I guess it's a fair thing to allow our fellow AMA participants to ask the questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand so I can invite you to the stage and you can ask your question directly to the Philip.
Very quickly, apologies for being a bit late. But I wondered, have you asked Philip so far about kind of what drew him to Substrate?
Yes, he shared about his background. Philip, would you like to summarize?
Yeah,
in
I
little?
can touch on that a bit. So I basically I got into Rust, and at the time I already been implemented some other blockchain protocols in other languages, and I wasn't really satisfied. So I thought like, hey, what's the best? I started looking around, and I was like, what's the best? What's the most stable and most maintained framework right now that is nice to work with? And I found Substrate. So it was mostly me finding a Rust project I liked.
Were there any things that, just the final question, Philip, was there anything about the design of Substrate and Polkadot and relay chains that excited you that kind of when you joined?
Yeah, absolutely. The vision behind Substrate is something I really enjoy. And as I got into Substrate, I started following more Gavin Wood, and entire Gavin's viewpoint is something I really admire. And I think just there's so many cool things that we can build thanks to this amazing technology that we have. And how Gavin would explain it with the decentralized nation states we could have decentralized almost everything. And so which is also very nice that it's very smart people behind Substrate, which is something I really enjoy.
Nice one. Yeah, like loads of questions. Who's got questions?
Ogman asked that, Philip, what got you into Rust? It's kind of similar to what got you into the Substrate.
Yeah, no, I actually got into Rust because I had it was a couple of years ago, and my friend at the time, he was working on a project called OpenStreetMap, which is like Google Street Map, but it's open source. And that project was funded by Mozilla and Red Hat. And Mozilla and Red Hat, I know the team there. And this was like in 2017, 2016 or something. And Rust was very new then. No one really know about it. And my friend told me that worked at Mozilla then. He told me about it, but I didn't really interact with it so much until later, when I had a real life use case that needed a much more stable runtime and needed much more improvement, which was a iPhone script actually that was parsing XML, and it was just very slow and just eating memory, and it was really dirty, and then it worked terribly slow. Yeah, and I rewrote it in Rust just as a fun project, and I issued amazing results. Then I got more and more into Rust's Rust ecosystem, and I've been reading a lot about the memory management in Rust, coming from an IT security background where you sometimes need to trigger like in-memory bugs, stuff like that. You need to manipulate the memory a bit. So I was also very intrigued by Rust from the memory management side.
mind blown already. If anyone wants to ask questions in text format, you can also use Whiteboard AMA channel. And if you
Hi,
want,
Philip.
go
Shankar, you
ahead.
can continue. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hi, Philip. Will you be interested in deploying your own protocol on Edgeware apart from runtime?
You mean like my own protocol that I designed from scratch?
Yes, on Edgeware.
Yeah, yeah, I would be interested in that. It sounds like a yeah. I would need to think a bit about it. Do you have any specific ideas on protocols that you have in mind?
No, I don't have any, but no worries. Like we can think as we develop further.
Were there any just further to that, Philip? Are there any palettes that you've been looking at or you've been sort of interested in?
It's
Have
my-
you seen any? Have you
Yeah.
seen any development in that space? Or Ramsey, you were going to maybe follow on with that?
Yeah, I was next, Rich. But
Sorry.
Vismeti, you stole my question as well, which was a good question. And I guess like to elaborate on that question, it's like, do you have any like ideas about long term what you'd like to build, and then I guess to add a bit more clarity to maybe Vismeti's question is like, do you see regarding the Gav's viewpoint philosophy of like multi-chain, do you see like chains of the future being built on top of, or like chains being built out and like connecting with each other in a more interoperable way?
So to answer the second question first, I hope that decentralized nations will come to already running chains and then build on the like don't reinvent the wheel so much and take what is there. And so I hope they will go to whatever chain they suggest and build on top of that. In case of the vision, I would like to get Edgeware as like the runtime upgrades as stable as possible and as like easy as possible to do. I have some ideas there. I've been sketching on some stuff, and yeah, like after that, it would be really fun to do some kind of niche project or protocol implementation on Edgeware. That would be really cool to work on. Did I answer your questions?
Awesome. Yeah, that was nicely answered. And I guess like another question has more to do with the migration. I was watching Simnode. I don't know his name.
Yeah,
actual name.
that's Shun. I know the guy.
You work with him.
Yeah.
You worked with him, right? Yeah. He sounds an interesting guy, and also he had he was the guy that bricked the Picasso chains, right, 3 times.
Yeah.
But he's learned a lot from that, and that's good that he did a crowdcast with Sasha from Substrate, and like I learned a bit from some of his mistakes, which is helpful. And I think he created Simnode, like a framework that you can add the runtime into, so that to like test a bit, like it's kind of more purpose built to do some testing for potential.
I saw the presentation.
The migration.
It was a really nice
cool.
presentation on the Substrate seminars a couple of days ago. Yeah, it's a really cool tool. I checked it out. Shun is he's a nice guy. He's a really nice guy. He used to be. He came straight from Parity, so he was working on some Substrate module, some part of the Substrate build system, and then he started working with he started working with Picasso a bit like 4 months after I started working on it or something like that. But yeah, it's a cool project, same node.
Awesome.
There is one more question by Frogman. So, what are the contributions you are willing to put into Edgeware?
My contributions.
Mm-hmm. Whether it is palettes, runtime, or how you will keep your approach. Like the first thing will be the ERP5 upgrade of Substrate 3.0. Then what will come next, whether it is Substrate 4 or some innovative things.
Yeah, exactly. So keeping first getting all the libraries updated and make sure that, and also test everything and do the migrations, make sure that nothing breaks with the updates, and if it breaks, then write some kind of patch to mitigate the breakage, and then ties down into the earlier questions about the niche protocol. Yeah, I like to follow the release schedule they have. So try to update as soon as there's new stable update from them, and then try to make it as easy as possible to do so. So automate as much as possible. Write some good documentation, and like in the future, like in the earlier question, maybe I can jump in and work on some niched protocol implementation or something.
Amazing.
I think that's a really good idea, and it's the most simplest, obvious thing that it's funny because, like, for the past few months, no one really mentioned, like, oh, why don't we do the latest releases and then create storage migration so that it's compatible with the old version, which is a simple thing, such a simple thing, but
yeah, exactly.
Takes a fresh eyes to kind of come and introduce that idea.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Raptor asked, "Hi Philip, what all should we learn to become a runtime developer?"
What was the question? Could you say that again?
He asked, "What all should we learn to become a runtime developer? Like, what are the things he is asking for a guidance?"
All right. I would suggest getting into Rust, learning Rust. I don't know if you have the person asking has any programming experience. So if you don't have any programming experience, then start programming and get into Rust, and also get into Substrate. There's a lot of nice documentations out there on, I think it's substrate.dev or something like that. Substrate.io. Read all the documentation and play around with the code and learn how everything works. Yeah.
He also asked, "What are your opinions on Rust and Solidity?" This question can be answered in 3 different ways, like how Solidity works in Rust, or what is Rust. What will be your opinions on Rust versus Solidity, or he is generally asking about
Rust and
just
Solidity.
guidance.
I really like Rust. Rust is it's one of my favorite programming languages. I really enjoy programming in Rust. The main difference between Rust and Solidity is Solidity is something called a DSL, which is a domain-specific language. So it's very limited in what it can do. But I have programmed some with Solidity, and there's a lot of nice Solidity programs out there. It's kind of limited to only being run on Ethereum and similar chains that can implement it. But if I had to choose between Solidity and Rust, I would choose Rust.
On the same topic, I have like small question. when we use Solidity under rest, like through the EVM palette. So does it introduce inefficiency?
I think that's like an implementation thing right there. If it's properly implemented, I don't think it should like cause any major problems.
Because it's like a VM running inside a VM. So that's why I was wondering. Frogman asked, what is the major change that we will be seeing after reaching the first milestone like the runtime upgrade?
So there will be a much more stable or much more up-to-date chain. Hopefully less things will break. And after that is done, then hopefully there will be a continuous update of chains, and Edgeware will continue to have good updated libraries and a fresh runtime. So more features, hopefully, yeah.
Vismay asks, Philip, what are your views regarding Edgeware as a solution?
I'm a real fan of Edgeware, mostly because it's long uptime. I don't know if I have any specific answer to that.
Like, what do you think? Whether Edgeware solution should remain a solution or should become a parachain in future, or maybe we could adopt the parabridge approach?
I think like it would be cool to do a parabridge, because parabridge implementations from a technical side is very interesting. So it would be cool to do a parabridge in the future, and I think we should get that direction. That would be cool.
Shankar, have you shared the parabridge concept?
Not yet. I will share that in the whiteboard AMA.
I have a question, Philip.
Yeah.
As a core maintainer of chains, you must be really good at maintenance. So how do you maintain your beard on a day-to-day basis?
That's a really good question. I actually, funny, speaking of that question, I got like a new barber, and I don't know why, but they say they like my beard so much that they give me 20% off every time I go. I don't know if that's just like some stupid marketing trick, or I hope it's true. It's most likely a stupid marketing trick, but it makes my soul happy. So yeah.
That's brilliant. I mean, it's an impressive beard, so I don't blame them.
Thank you.
I have a slightly adjacent question, because I'm always interested not just in kind of people's specific skills, but also their interest areas. I saw, because I found your LinkedIn earlier this week, but you say you're the editor for the book Escape into Happiness. Like, what does that still exist? What is that, or what was that? And Nomad Postbox.
That's two very, very different projects. A really good friend of mine is named Amma Rivers, and we know each other because we have similar friends that are really well read into economics and been studying economics since it's a really long time. So Amma is a good personal friend of mine, and she is a really talented writer. So but she's like She doesn't know a lot about book publishing and stuff like that because she's she's over 80 years old and lives but she's going strong. So it's a good friend of mine who is a really talented writer. I've been trying to motivate her to publish books for years. And then finally she said like, yeah, I have this book that I wrote a while ago. If you edit it for me, then I will publish it. And I was really happy to do that. And me and Amma, we're also very into, it's weird, we're very into economics and also like psychology and psychology, you could say. And she's very into like different like psychedelic therapy or like a lot of like psychology when it comes to like mental health and stuff like that. So it was like a long story short, it was me helping a friend get a book published.
Nice. Does that? I was just looking for the link, the escape to happiness, because that doesn't work. Is there a link you can share?
Sure. I had problems.
I know this
with,
is nothing to do with the. I know this is nothing to do with the upgrade of Edgeware, but it's it's always interesting.
It's on Amazon and it's also on Kobo. I can share.
If you just share it in the whiteboard AMA.
Okay. I'll find the link and share it then. Yeah.
You can share it after this AMA.
Okay.
So
cool.
We have a couple of more questions from the community. Jerome asked, "Hello, Philip. Welcome to Edgeware. Can you please tell us a bit about the latest project you worked on, aka Composable Finance? And can you also explain how you contributed to its success and how you handled any obstacles you may have run into?"
Yeah, sure. So that was kind of a to give some background story. When I got into what is now Picasso, what was then just a GitHub repo, I got into this. I started working with this other programmer, and we worked with Composable because Composable wouldn't to do like parachain with Substrate. We're like, cool, we can make that happen, and we started out with just a node template, and then we started like removing the node stuff in the node template and make it more minimal, and then we had the minimal runtime, and and then it just went on, and it's been a lot of then the project just grew and grew, and it got bigger and bigger. But there's been a lot of problems around a lot of things, both with like getting good ways to automate testing and writing good mock profiles. Been a pain in the ass. Basically, there's been a lot of problems with with writing like test functions and verifying it and stuff like that. But after a lot of poking around, got it to work. Yeah.
Ismay asked, Philip, not much resources are available regarding Rust for new learners. So can you please provide a road on how should a new learner proceed so he can have a proper command on Rust?
Certainly. There is like there's Rust by examples, which is by the Rust language team, and then there is a website called I think it's called exorcism.org, which you interactively go through these Rust tutorials. I know one of the developers there, Ukrainian guy. They're very good. And then also on GitHub, there's this repository called Rustlings, where you walk through these simpler problems in Rust, and you're supposed to solve them. So that's where I would look.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Philip, so I've got a question.
Yeah.
So like you learned Rust before you came into Substrate.
Yeah.
At what point did you did you have at the beginning stages there? How much did you know about blockchain, and then what did you learn? How did you go about learning about the whole Substrate framework? Because it's of course quite big. It can seem quite complex.
So I learned Rust. I learned Rust with other use cases, such as writing various types of parsing tools and various types of network tools, and doing all kind of other projects, internal APIs and database handlers. And so I started just rewriting other code into Rust. Before that, I was doing a lot of like Python and C++. I've been doing C++ earlier, and like the thing with Rust, if you're not familiar with the functional languages, which are can be a bit tricky sometimes compared to what's known as object-oriented languages, which are more common. Like what helped me a lot with Rust, which was my that I've been fiddling a bit with C++, and I know some basic concept in C++, that helped me a lot. But it's a steep learning curve, Rust in the beginning. And to answer your question about the blockchain knowledge, before I didn't know exactly how Polkadot worked before I started working with Substrate. Before I've been doing other implementations in other languages of other stuff. I'm doing clients in Python for a lot of different blockchains, Monero, Ethereum, and Bitcoin Lightning, and some other stuff. So I had the fundamentals on like how to interact with the chain and stuff like that. So for me, that was pretty straightforward. Then it's some other stuff that you need to learn with Substrate, such as the consensus stuff and Grandpa, and getting the names of all the algorithms right, and all the palettes and the structure.
That's a helpful answer, and like I can resonate with the steep learning curve with Rust, especially coming from like more of a JavaScript kind of background, where Node.js is like the back end sort of
Exactly.
library. It's hard. And how do you keep motivated? Like I guess like if for me, I need to get into a feedback loop where it's like I know I can see results, and then I can like change it and see results, and like the repetition for me is helpful. But when learning Rust, it was super painful.
It is.
Firstly, you have to compile it, so you can't see really the results, and then the way it's designed, to with the being very granular, it's very difficult. Yeah. So what motivated you? Like what can motivate people, keep people motivated to get past that steep learning curve?
So you gotta think of the carrot, I think, and you gotta think like once this compiles, like doing Rust in the beginning is, and sometimes also doing Rust is sometimes a fight with the compiler. You want to do something, or you want to implement it one way, and then the compiler just says, no, you're not allowed to implement it this way. And then you're fighting with the compiler a lot. And also coming from other languages, as you mentioned, that has that you don't need to worry about like how to store things in memory and how long you want to store things in memory, which is a real pain in the everyone that's been doing C and C++ programming all know about malloc, which is a nightmare. Mare is memory. It has to do with memory management. So I think like in order to stay motivated, you gotta keep rewarding yourself every time you learn something. So you solve one bug, then you reward yourself, and you just gotta hang in there, I think, and just keep pushing. And once you get stuck, there's learning program. There's always people to ask in on Slack or on Discord. So when you get stuck, there's you can reach out to people, which is very helpful. Thanks to the open source community.
Nice. And you mentioned earlier like that when you were using the node template, you were taking things away, which is and you were simplifying it, which of course makes sense. And Shanko's probably going to strangle me for asking this, but like in terms of the storage migration, there's like a little debate going on between like doing everything at one time, because the Edgeware community has been waiting to get the EVM going for a long time, and it's been kind of switched off because of the complexity and things, and the management. So like, how would you go about? What's your opinion? Because of course that's definitely the most valuable one. Is like about going about the storage migration and EVM.
That's a hopefully like that will not the update of all the libraries will not interfere too much with the EVM. Hopefully everything is backward compatible, but if it's not, then it's gonna be a pain in the ass. But I hope they don't. I hope that, and I think that the updates of library shouldn't slow down the EVM launch too much, I think.
Thanks.
I love these technical discussions. This is how AMA is supposed to be. Questions of every kind. So we have a question from MRKT16. Hi, Philip. Do you have a vision for Edgeware? Where do you see us in 5 years' time? And what would you like to see built/implemented on Edgeware?
So hopefully in 5 years, Edgeware will be this stable stone in the Substrate and Kusama ecosystem. That this stable pillar that just works, and hopefully there will be some really nice features by then and some really nice upgrades, and I think there will, as a project moves on and on, more people are gonna jump on. So I think it's gonna grow a lot in 5 years.
Jerome asked a question. Why did you choose Edgeware over other projects? Because there are many chains which needs Rust developers. Why you chose Substrate chain over other ecosystem chains?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of different ones out there. Some people are trying to make like gaming SDKs and to integrate Unity with blockchain, and some other chains are all about the para bridges or being able to interconnect different things. But what I wanted to work on and I want to work on is like stable code. And I see Edgeware as, because it's been, the mainnet has been running pretty long compared to the other chains out there. I see Edgeware as this stable project and it's stable pillar, and hopefully it will stay like that. So basically, it's because I want to work on stable and reliable code and or in the infrastructure, and I think Edgeware is the place, is the chain for me to do that.
Can't wait to see you contributing.
Thank you.
So Vismay asked, Philip, any kind of setback on Edgeware side, especially on the technical side, which will be your immediate focus?
Like my immediate focus will just be try to look more at like what breaks and when libraries are updated and the changes that goes on. So as soon as possible, my immediate or my nearest future goals are basically get all the libraries up to date and get the storage migration working as soon as possible.
Amazing. Last call for the questions. Again, a small reminder, if you want to ask directly, you can request to speak and join us on the stage.
I'd just like to say, Philip, it's awesome that you're here, and really look forward to working with you and learning from you. So thanks for being here. And also, like, once you've done this storage migration, can we do like a video sort of presentation, kind of like the crowdcast from before, from the Alex Popiak's Edgeware migration, and like do something like that?
Yeah, I think like, but yeah, totally. I think like some projects like Shun's Simnode, I think totally. We could totally do something like that, because obviously I think a lot of good best practices will be created from this, and it's a really good learning point as well for other projects, so to say, that will that needs to do this as well.
I think that's really important, and that is what we want to be. We want to be a place for we want to be useful in the more useful in the Substrate ecosystem, and having you here will help to embody those aims.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you for the question. Anyone got any more questions?
Yes. So Brahman asked, what the current issue that should be resolved considering the storage migration?
So the issues that are going to be resolved is it's basically like stepping through each version and then seeing what changes and then what breaks then is gonna be the first problem to tackle, so to say.
Do we know, just following on from that, because Shankar, we've had this discussion a fair amount, because this is kind of the final, this is almost like a migration, not just to a new version of Substrate, but to a new kind of set of dependencies that are entirely community operated, rather than having dependencies that Commonwealth
Exactly.
Labs control. So I just wondered what, like, Shankar, do you know, and maybe you're going to learn this, but maybe you know, Philip, already, and maybe Ramsey has some views as well, but what are the core dependencies that are currently, should we say, issues for the community being sovereign in controlling its own destiny?
So are you asking in terms of technical perspective only, or in general?
Yeah, primarily technical.
Okay. So right now, if I'm not wrong, Drew actually routed all the dependencies from the web repo to the Edgeware's main repo. So currently it's on I Commonwealth repo, but we can obviously fork the branch because we already have the master branch. Rames already did a review of that ERP5 upgrade. So that review branch could be taken as a reference. And then I don't think there is any other dependency apart from Commonwealth Labs actually hosts the boot nodes and load balancer infrastructure for RPC endpoints. But obviously, it's not a bad thing because we have other provider called On Finality. So it's kind of decentralized already. But it would be interesting if in future, if agency or decentralization could come up with their own load balancer based node infrastructure.
I was going to ask, and conscious that it's coming to the top of the hour. How do you best work, Philip? Would you be interested in like doing like anything like kind of live follow, like a kind of because of like Edgeware's got these kind of community values. It's like the open and community values. Like, would you be interested in doing like a sort of live, maybe Twitch style kind of thing?
You mean like music performances?
There's a guy I follow on Rust. Yeah, music performances. Yeah, maybe some dancing and like no, more just like specifically to Substrate, beard grooming as well, of course. But like there's a guy I follow on Twitch. His name's Togglebit. You might know him. He's a Rust person. He's also Swedish. But like, yeah, I mean, he does follow alongs. Like he's building. I don't know. He's probably working, but like he's thinking out loud, and he's got like 100 people that are just following along and learning with him, basically. But it's just like a open-ended idea, open-ended question. It's okay to say no. Fine. Can't hear you.
I think you've just upset Philip.
Sorry. Don't shave. That's fine.
Looks like Philip is having some audio issues. Okay, check that. We could just move on to the next question. So Zirom asked, can you describe your strategy for the working period? And he says, thank you.
He's gone.
Yes, he's definitely having some audio issues.
He's back. Putting his hand up.
Hey,
Okay.
sorry, my I don't know, Discord crash.
No problem. Have you heard about?
There were two questions. Maybe just very quickly, Ramsey. Just that your question about Philip. Is there a way with your work in the way you work? Is there a way of the community being involved, following along, doing a Twitch real time kind of follow along or live stream?
Yeah, I mean, I could have like, you mean like a live stream, like a how to fit type of thing?
Yeah, like Togglebit. I don't know if you know who Togglebit is. He's a Swedish Rust person, so you must know him, of course, because there's like 10 people in Sweden. But like, I follow him along with him. He's got like there's 100 people that watch him, and he's doing his work basically, or he's building like a API in Rust, or he's doing something interesting like with a Vim. He loves Vims and like at Rust, and so like he's working, but like people are following along, and he's just thinking out loud, and it's just like the best best way to learn from someone if you're bored of trying to decode the Rust docs?
Yeah, that would be that. Yeah, I could totally do that. I think that's a nice way of learning.
That'd be really cool. I look forward
Getting to like letting
That's super exciting.
letting other people know about the thought process and stuff like that. Yeah, totally.
I think one of the things you're going to learn. I think there's one more question, but I think that one of the things that we've all learned kind of firsthand by contributing to Edgeware over the last half a year, and then we're trying to instill into Kabocha at the very, very start of the project, is that the idea of how you get people involved, the community participation part, the making a system feel inclusive, and getting people who would not ordinarily talking to each other. That was probably one of the primary issues in the early days of Edgeware. Was it was a slightly closed culture, and people didn't feel it wasn't open enough. So I think that's one of the things that we're sort of trying to cultivate, is very much a kind of community atmosphere, rather than just being 50,000 people in a Telegram group demanding to know when an upgrade's happening and essentially, when are you going to make me rich? Like, this is much more a kind of real community. So that these are all the ways, even Ramsey's suggestion there, these are all the ways that we can work together collectively to figure out how to best communicate some of the things you're working on, how to best sort of raise awareness of them. And that's the thing. It's like this idea of a collective where we all kind of work collectively together. And we share our learnings as we go, really. I think a lot of the things me and Ramsey have been talking about with Kabocha, and I think is probably going to happen with Edgeware, even via this call, we've been talking a bit about doing the very simple things right first, is that we need to get the simple things right before we can do more complicated things. And it's very exciting to do really, really exciting new things. But ultimately, if we can just do the basics right, we've got a really great foundation for other people to come and work on.
Exactly. That would be, and it touch upon the 5-year question. Then I think it's really good if Edgeware becomes this like stable pillar. So yeah, I agree with that.
Awesome.
So we're not having EVM then?
I don't know about the EVM.
Ooh.
We do have a question about EVM coming up. So before that, Jerome asked, last question from his side. Can you describe your strategy for the working period? And he says, thank you.
So yeah, my strategy is basically trying to pinpoint what library, where the most problem is gonna be upgrading the libraries, and try to get a solid viewpoint on where the most work needs to be done, and basically start from there, and then try to tackle each update by itself.
Mm-hmm. Levian asked, this is the EVM related question. Will we see something similar to Ethereum's London upgrade on Edge EVM as a burning mechanism in future?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Mm-hmm. So Ethereum's London upgrade is, if I'm not wrong, it's majorly about dividing the fee structure into 2 types of fees. There is a max fee and priority fee. And this EIP is being recently adopted by Polygon as well as BSC. So maybe in future, the AGVM, aka smart contract environment in the one of the palette on the Edgeware, would adopt that for burning mechanism.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for the question. I'm not really sure how to address that.
Maybe
A
the
quick response to that. Quick response to that would be, a burning mechanism is like a short term. Everyone looks at the burning mechanism now because of what Ethereum have done with their burning fees upgrade. There's so much stuff that we have to do and can do to improve the project and the projects that are born from Edgeware, including Kabocha, that to start with let's burn Edgeware tokens to effectively, I'm assuming the reason would be to improve the price, because it's simply reducing supply. I think that I look at it as like those are sort of one of the variables that you do right at the end when you've done everything else, not something you do right at the start, because it's a very short term approach to trying to bump the price.
Indeed. Raptor asked off topic and big picture question. So, what's the scope of integrating ML machine learning with Edgeware and Substrate?
I think that can be done. Yeah, there's a lot of cool interactions being done with because thanks to Substrate we can do things off chain. So I think that would be a really cool use case for an off chain worker or a Substrate interaction off chain. So I think that most likely will be implemented in the future.
Okay, it looks like we are out of questions, but we definitely received a lot of questions from different domains of Edgeware. So I guess it's time to conclude.
That was really good. Thank you, Philip, for joining. And hopefully this will be the start of kind of a load of these and getting more people involved, lots of different questions. And you'll start to understand from the inside like what it's like to kind of contribute in the community. And yeah, so the next thing is to get your proposal up and get people voting.
Yes, I'm really excited about that. Thank you guys for all the questions and having me on today.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Philip.
Thank you so much, Philip, for the awe-inspiring AMA and also dedicating your time for the community and making this session possible. And most importantly, thank you to every community member who participated in the AMA and also the contributors like Ramsey, Reach, for their presence despite of time zone differences and insightful questions. Last but not the least, as a thank you note, all the AMA participants will share a pool of 100K ECEP tokens. These are Edgeware community engagement points. So don't forget to DM me your Edge EVM address for the same. And this concludes our first of its kind voice AMA. See you everyone in the Monday's week planning call. Bye.
Thank you, Shankar.
Thank you guys.
Cheers, Shankar. Thank you very
Have a
much,
good
everyone.
one. Ciao, ciao.